Morning. What's going on? Let me see what you got over here. SQ. Okay, Trace, but you're going to have to trade around this level, right? You know, because you're in the sandwich. So then you're going to have to, like, basically mark out those spots and then trade around it. Frankly, I don't know if you have the, you know, you're more like a Pentium 86. You know, you need an i9 for one of those. You like the Intel reference, buddy? Lemonade, I definitely think you got gap down today. We could probably short this piggy. Good. Riot Billy, I like your list, Trash. I think I would take out the SQ, keep the rest. Hey, morning, guys. What's going on? How y'all doing? Shred. All right, cool. Good morning. Everybody ready to roll? Hey, we got a flat open. Flat open on this. Now the question is, you know, do we go red to green today? So we did have a big bounce day in the markets. It ended up being a gap and grind day, which is really kind of the, it's a tougher day to trade sometimes because you kind of got to like almost chase up some entries and then hold through it. So it makes it a little bit tricky. But frankly, right, like a little bit of green is good for the soul. So now we've got kind of a level that's been, you know, we kind of close right at the 9 EMA here. And we're still stuck in range. So just because we had like a big up day doesn't necessarily mean like we're out of the woods, but we can start to see like we're starting to build out a range here. And we've got a spot over here in the QQQs that frankly, if we can come over, then it'll take us into the, you know, next supply zone. These type of, you know, this type of action is always a little bit more tricky to day trade just because you have so many levels of supply overhead where, you know, over when you're just trading over the 9 EMA or something, you don't have any supply overhead. So it's a little bit of a weird spot. But you can see here, this is the range break that I would just keep an eye on. This is a 30-minute chart of the QQQs. You've got probably, give or take, 324, 325 zone. If we break over it, that'll take us obviously into a red to green on the market. And then from there, that'll take us to a little red to green on the market. And then from there, I think we'll have a little bit more shot. Like we won't have, you know, our next levels would be about 327. But I think if we break over, we get probably closer to this gap fill. Those are the levels that you're going to have to trade around today. Once again, this is not, it's never easy when you're, you know, when you're under so much resistance. I know a lot of you guys just want to look at some cheap tickers and be like, oh, I can just buy these and they work. That works when you're in a trending environment, but when you're stuck inside a range or downtrend, it just doesn't do it that way. You're going to have to trade around this level, then this level, then this level, but also yesterday's supports, and you'll be good to go. Hey, Jordan, you have been all over that now that I think about that. Good job. I'll chat with you later on that. That was a good job. So these are the things that we'll just have to be aware of. Let's take a look at the gappers list and make sure we kind of trade around those spots today. Like, don't be going in balls deep on different things till you have an acute understanding of what's going on. JCS, yeah. These kind of small caps are not really my thing. You know, out of these, if you see them, like, frankly, they are tradable, but this NNVC's got a history of making moves. It's a pump and dump stock. It pushes like every couple years and it'll go up like 300, 400% and then dump off. It does this all the time where it'll go up like 300, 400% and just dump off. That's the nature of the beast on this thing. The float is low enough on it. Like if you need a little turdzilla to play, that one could work. Even like the Chef Solutions, it's only got 400,000 shares. This got 27 million shares in volume. So the float's already rotated completely since the morning. You probably got a good shot on something like this, but that's not here or there. That's not really my thing. Let's go in and just look at some of like the regular earnings plays. This Coppin beat on Comp swings, profit, revenue climbs. So they got an earnings beat. In this market, earnings beat's a good thing. You're starting to come out of range on this. This is a tech stock in general. It does more than enough liquidity. You can see it's, usually averaging about 6 million shares, but it's really been more in the 11 to 12 range for a long time. I think this one too, the float's under 100 milli on this. This is probably going to have a chance to go. I like that. Add that to the list. That's top of the list. NCTY, this one's actually just starting its bounce, probably a remount to the 9 today. This runs with like Mara and Can and some of those names. I would put all the Bitcoin names on your watch list for a round 2. Bitcoin's got a flat open for the most part. It's just kind of meandering between 49, 50,000, 51,000. That's actually probably fairly bullish. I had a nice day yesterday, but you want these things to kind of rest. This is another one that probably has a chance. This is not a priority for me, though, and the reason is there's no liquidity in this bad boy. There's no liquidity in this bad boy. You just can't get any size on it. You can see like yesterday did about 4 million shares. But the spread on it was, it had a monster cock spread. I just leave that alone. You can trade this, but you got to go in like half size. This has got the best range out of all the Bitcoin-y stocks due to, I believe, this reverse split that happened in October. That really thinned out, the flow to such a point. So like if you think about it, you had a 1 to 10 reverse split. So really this $50 is $5, right? And they took away, 10x of the float. That's why, I don't know. This has got 15 ATR at $50. Monsters for hose. This one's got, it's just too thin. I'd keep it on the list. I got it on mine, but you're going to have to trade that in a different manner. RKT's got... RKT's probably had some upgrades or something like that. But this thing is really starting to push. This is a Jordan Axelrod Deluxe. You got a base breakout that's setting up here. Monster volume the last few days. 40 million, 50 million the previous days. You're gapping up 10%. I didn't see any news on it, not that it really matters. I think this one's got a chance for us to play. It's going to need the pull at the open. It's a thick stock, and it's such a thick little noodle that you just can't ever chase it like right off at the open. We got to let this one pull back, but I think if it pulls back, like we're going to have a shot. Good. GSX. This one's also too thin. I actually really like this chart, but this thing is very spiky. Now, MVIS. You know what? MVIS, and by the way, this is a third of a company. It's probably worth like $1. But it has been a monster trend for the last, months. It's been just cruising. I really like the chart on this. Your remount to the 9, you've got a flag breakout here. It's got a good range to it. This is probably, I would keep this on the list. I like this name a lot. KPNG. Why are there so many gappers today? Now, SE, this is a heater, all right? So this is like an e-commerce, digital gaming stock. We've been trading this thing back and forth since it's like, or staring at it since it's like $20. It's got a decent range on it, $17 ATR lately. So it's very tradable. You had earnings out today. C report surge in fourth quarter revenue, blah, 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 blah. Now, look, this company, like all companies, they still, lose money. That's actually a sign of good. That's a good thing in this market. The more money you lose, the hotter it gets. This thing is, I think we could day trade this. Now, this is a Chinese, Hong Kong stock, something along that end. Usually this name in particular always shreds at the open, and then it sits around the rest of the day and like forces you to it'll force you to just sit around and, it's going to force you to just sit around. It does this all the time. Like you'll have one hot shred in the morning, maybe in the first hour, and then it's done. Hold on here. Good. I keep that on top of the list. I like that name, actually. That's going to be a heater. Dun, 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 dun. So we got SE, Copid, Envis so far. All right. Fubo. Man, Fubo is a top. ZM. So Zoom had earnings out. Zoom had its earnings out. You got a whole host of upgrades, it looks like. You know, usually if you have earnings out and you get like some monster upgrades just like coming on the tail end of it, then usually the pump is on this. And like that thing is going to have, that thing might have a chance. We used to trade ZM nonstop when it was trending, and we've really left it alone for the last few months. But this has been, you know, at one point, this was our baby. At one point, this was our baby. It's not the easiest stock to trade out, and the reason is it's a larger cap company, which is fine. But for some reason, this one has always been prone to, like, the range is so big, it's a little bit thicker. It does have a little bit more shakeouts. Shreyas, I would stay away from this one if I were you. You, as you know, ZM is not your friend. ZM is not your friend. It never has been. So leave that one alone. The rest of your list is pretty good. I'd add it to the list. Like we've had some good times with ZM. Add it to the list. MP got an upgrade. I think this is probably like a daily trader. So we're gonna narrow down the list in a second, guys. Fubo, I believe, did the earnings already come out, or are they coming out after the fact? They might be coming out into the close. You might get a pre-earning squeeze on this one, you know, and see what's going down. It's got a lot of shorts in it, which is actually why it trades so shitty. You know, when you get too many shorts in a stock, frankly, they trade really shitty. You know, like if you ever see like a stock that like looks hot and then it just pops and fades, a part of it is that there's just actually too many shorts in it, and it ends up acting herky-jerky. The sweet spot for short interest is like between 10 and 25%. That's like the sweet spot for short interest, where you get like enough juice to really get it going. But like once you get into 30, 40, 50%, they just move like shit. Like they're almost impossible to trade. So you ever get like one of those hot stocks where everybody's like, oh my gosh, the shorts are covering? They tend to, you know, trade really, really harky-jarky. All right, so these Bitcoin stocks, we're going to have round 2 on these today. These are all top of the list. This is a hourly chart on Riot. You can see here you've got a big level. There's a big level on Riot. I think anything over that, we could day trade that thing back and forth. Wait for like a little bit of an ORB or a quick pullback buy. If you're not, you know, on these type of names, guys, the quick pullback buy is the best setup to do. Like you don't want to chase them off at the open. So what I mean by quick pullback buy, think about like yesterday, right? The entries on these, right? So you get the gap up, and you don't want to chase off of these particular names. You don't want to chase off at the entry. And like, see how like you'll start to pull back into the 9, and like you'll start to hold, and it'll look nasty, and then boom, they're off to the races. That's the best setup you can do on these kind of Bitcoin names. Like you see, this thing was at $44. It gaps up to 50, and then right, it just slowly pulls back into the 90 MA. It starts to hold there. You start to build, and then you're kind of back off, and then you know you want to kind of scale out along the way. But I find that's the best way to hit some of these. Now, like Can, which is the other Bitcoin name, Can is like, it trades much more wild. So this one you don't have to hit on pullbacks. You can hit them on ORB. So, you know, you can hit this on Can. Is just, for some reason, it's just got like that kind of monster mover where the ranges, you know, in terms of percentages, can just get really wild. So this one doesn't necessarily have to be hit on pullbacks. You can chase this up on an ORB if you get it and see, you know, what goes down. What the fuck? There we go. Yeah, you can see how this right yesterday. That's your ORB minimum 3 candles on a 5-minute chart. Right? Minimum 3 candles on a 5-minute chart. Sometimes we may preempt them doing some other things, but in general, that's the nature of the game. Hey, on the other side, look, there's some stocks that are getting, shamangled on some earnings here today. FGen. Right, so this is like a biotech stock. It looks like it's had some news out. Yeah, it's SSR is going to be on this. INSG, fuck these guys. I got an INSG 5G mobile card and there's no 5G on it. Scammers. I'm so bitter. 5G, I was so excited for it. It's like the cloud, right? Nobody knows what it is, but you're really excited about it, right? You're like, it's like the cloud. And 5G is like the same thing. Nobody really knows what it is. But you want it. You want it. I got one of these INSG cards. And I turned that thing on. I turned my 4G card in. And it just ended up saying 4G on it. It was like Christmas was ruined. I was very excited. So I was going to take the 5G. Then I was going to call Cox Cable and tell them to bite me. Because I hate them. AI. Nasty. Man, fiscal loss shrinks, revenue jump. They're not having a good reaction to this. You know what? On the short side, we might be able to. We might be able to dicker and deal with this one. The spread on this stinks. When you trade this, you have to trade this. So what we'll do is this can ORB to the downside. What we got to do on this one, though, the spread on this is terrible. You got to almost level in say you wanted 500 shares, you would have to level in 100 shares at a time almost. If you normally just trade 100 shares, do 30. They'll probably have $10 range on this, so you don't need to have a lot of size. Lemonade on the downside for potential ORB short. Looks like this thing... narrower loss, lower revenue. If you can't sell fucking insurance in America, then you deserve to get shorted, right? There's these insurance companies are just crushing. Lemonade. All right. If you see here, let's take a look at the hourly chart. There's kind of this 122-ish zone, 120. Let's just pretend this wick doesn't exist. There's 120 zone. If this thing rips under at the open, let's shred that. Good. All right. Add that to the list. I think that's a heater right there. Dun-dun-dun-dun. All right, so these are the earnings plays. SE, Copid, Lemonade, Envis, ZM, AI. On the other side of things, all right, top of the list. If the market goes red to green, we got, Billy had a nice trend on it. Big time trend on it. Gap up, 9 EMA, pull back and a go. We've got a nice sweet spot on this thing. Probably a breakout, getting close to high. Leave PDD alone. I think I like Baidu better. Baidu needs a break over this kind of 300 zone. It was kind of peaking in the pre-market. This thing is tighter than a drum. Let's go with it. Airbnb had a very, very narrow range day yesterday. Very, very narrow range day. So after an earnings day, if you have a narrow range day, that usually ends up being, a powerful thing. It's a good thing. An inside day after an earnings day is usually very, very bullish. Add that to the list. We've got FSR. FSR had a nice little squeezer, but it still didn't go, it still didn't break the previous day's high. Watch and see how this thing builds. If it breaks out, 29, I think we're going to be in a good spot. Future. Anything over yesterday's high, put an alert out. Right click, set alert, boom. Anything over 172, if you see here, this is your 30-minute chart. Anything over 172, that was where it was rejected on the 24th of Feb, so it's about a week ago. Anything over 142, we shred, all right? So we got buckets now. We got our Chinas. We've got Riot, Mara. We got our Bitcoin stocks. Then we got our earnings plays. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. I know you guys have a lot of stuff that you're looking at. I'm telling you, it's all okay, but these are the best. Like this Palantir, it's in a downtrend, right? So we gotta leave those alone. Excel, you know what? Excel's just exercised their warrants. This thing should be. So what happens is when the warrants are done, a lot of these stocks, this is like what HYLN does. The holders start shorting the stock till they can start to redeem them, and so then they end up really shredded. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. Da-da. Good. Add Excel to the list too. Cool. That's the list. I'm sticking to it, guys. We got a lot of fun. Yesterday was hot. Today's going to be hotter. We're going to dance. We're going to sing. We're going to make some money. You know how this goes today. Good. ZM. Guys, get your 6-window layouts going. All right. Lemonade. Cool. You know what? Vuzi, I think, actually will have a breakout. Cool. JMIA is not bad. JMI is not bad, but it's got to get over this 50. It's probably a little bit more of a swinger. I don't know about Workhorse just because I don't know how to interpret that news or not. Like what, like that. We're taking a wild guess when we play that kind of thing where we're like, hey, if it goes into a meeting and does this, will it do this? You know what I mean? So I think what we got to do on that, it's not that it can't work or write anything like that. But I think what we got to do on those things is just, wait till it comes out. Probably the easiest way, right? I know. It's more fun to play the guessing game, but we don't need to. All right. We got AI, ZM. Guys, set up your 6-window layouts. Can starting to go. All right, cool, man. We're going to have some shredders today. Let's do this.